This event is just for interaction to discuss how the communities should vote. And historically, because the majority has been voting for Labour, so some statistics say that about 60 to 70% of the communities have always voted for Labour. So this is what we want to discuss, why communities should vote for Labour and not other parties.
I think we should support Labour because of the immigration matter. It's never been that worse in Labour government, and also for the student fees. These are the mainly, I think, most important issues that we should, support Labour, in my view. Rest, I'm okay with any other government, but these are two issues, are main issues for me to support Labour.
Can I add something? I think Labour has one plus point compared to the Conservatives. I personally feel that Labour is much more integrated into the community compared to the Tories or the Conservatives. They seem to come from a particular class or a segment, and they tend to stick there. They don't want to, blend in with the rest. And that comes quite through and through, I see Labour MPs and representatives, the councillors and other people engaging with community leaders. They go to mosques, they go to temples, holy event and Eid events and other events. That's a very positive thing, especially when the community is so segregated and we tend to be at war at different things, especially religious and ethnic issues and all that. So Labour is perhaps the only party that can join and bring people together to bring that cohesion that's so much needed now, I guess more than ever, considering the external environment and all these terrorist issues and all that. The very fact that we are still together is perhaps because of these bonds that Labour has built over the years. So if that can be strengthened, that can be an extremely useful thing to have in the society.
My name is Zahid Mahmood. I have been doing accountancy practice for a number of years. In accountancy field more than 13 years in the UK. And my personal experience with my clients is Labour has been fantastic, because the backbone of the economy is the small businesses, and if you back your small businesses, which is the economy actually that creates the business, that creates the job, and the money is the circulating in the economy actually. And unfortunately, the Tory government have not done much. They promised a lot, but they didn't live up to their, their promises. And the banks, the lending issues, the loans issues, the overdrafts, for the small businesses, which is very important. The new businesses, unfortunately, they didn't do, much practically. Theoretically, yeah, they have been promising, but that is a financial issue. And that can help the Labour government. Obviously, the previous Labour government, during that period, I believe that the small businesses were growing, and obviously, you never had that sort of unemployment in the country. And now you see the young people, they have the financial issues, then they create the housing issues, and then obviously they multiply, for one thing to another. They're all linked. So when things are interlinked, you need to focus on those. So because I'm in the financial sector, and I believe that the government, that the Labour Party should put more, the focus on that part for the small businesses, that they will surely help the small businesses as they did in the past, and that will definitely, help. But as far as, the other issues like NHS, energy, and the housing things, like there is a rip-off at the moment actually, because we deal with the the estate agents and the individuals as well, that the short-term tenancy agreements, which is like they're costing so much, and individuals suffer actually. The people who are like estate agents or the landlords, they make big money out of the short tenancy agreements. So I would definitely, prefer the government, the Labour should focus on that one, as on top of whether the NHS or the energy issues or the other sectors or factors are.
We are joined by Mr. Muzaffar Chaudhry. He might be supporting Labour or not, but it's very important that he can tell us why it is important that we all must vote.
We are now in this country. Our future is here. Our generation's future is here, next generation. Nobody is going back now, none of us. This is our homeland, and when this is our homeland, we should take active part in all the activities of this country, especially political activities, because more you go into politics, become councillor, member of parliament, and when you participate in the elections, you are giving your own opinion, whichever party you are voting, you see. Because this is the real political process. The democracy gets stronger only by participating in the voting and becoming the part of the establishment, you see. Now, why I'm saying it is important, most of immigrants communities, especially our own from Pakistan, I've seen they're not much interested in coming out and exercising their own right. Remember, your future and your children's future is here now. You get them activate in the local politics, whichever party you're going. Labour Party no doubt has supported you. As immigrants, they help you a lot. This is a fact, you see. But my point of view is that basically, please come out, do vote, exercise your right. That is very important. That is the way you are, this is your duty to my way of thinking. I think that is the right word putting it in. Thank you.
I mean, honestly speaking, in my view, and obviously I'm a Labour supporter, is there any other party worth voting for? We already know what the Conservatives are doing because they're in government, so it's not going to be an eye-opener for us looking at the manifesto, looking at things. And any other promises that the Lib Dems made, obviously, we know they haven't kept them. None of them, actually. They backed out of them and they backtracked on them. So, similarly, it's again going to be a case of if you vote Lib Dems or UKIP or anything, it will be a case of going to bed with Lib Dem and waking up to a Tory government, or going to bed with the UKIPs and waking up to a Tory government. And Ed Miliband's already said that there will be no coalition with the SNP either. So Labour's made its stance very clear on all of it. Labour is going to be Labour, through and through. So when you're voting Labour, you know what you're going to get. You're not going to get a coalition with the SNP, at least at the moment. But with the Tories, that is the second biggest party. So the more likelihood is, if it is a high parliament, then what will happen? Or who are we going to go into government with? If it is a Conservative, so it will form a coalition. If Labour comes into power, we must think very carefully before voting, because as I think Faria over here said, she's herself a Labour supporter, but she says Labour is big on BME, and that is correct. Labour is big on BME. We are sitting over here. I think Keith was here, but he's coming back in a minute or so. He is the chair of BME, and nobody would know better than him how effective that organisation is.
I don't know if I should vote for Labour. I've come here to understand and get everybody's opinion, understand what people are saying here. What I know, by 2050, 1/3 of the British citizen population will be ethnic minorities. And I know that we are not represented as much as we should be. So there should be more representation of communities, and I know that a lot of Pakistani people, I know Natasha and I know some other people that I personally know, they are participating in the Labour as well, and they seem to be quite happy and enjoying and doing a lot of community work. They are very actively taking part into this, and I feel encouraged. I am a big supporter of Imran Khan, and I take part into his party. I support him and I actively take part into that, and because I'm British citizen and I have been living here for now 13 years, and I do feel that I should participate in the British politics as well.
Talking about Labour, as you mentioned, traditionally I'm from Pakistani origin, so I have seen the Pakistani community has been served better by Labour, and the representation is better in Labour, and they have been participating, and I see many successful politicians in Labour. And as far as the community is concerned, we think as youth, everybody think we should be taking part more and more, and we should be more active. And that way, your voice can be heard better and your representation can change many decisions. And if you are actively participating in the politics of this country.
I think the reasons to vote Labour are very strong. And I think particularly if you think about the British economy in the last 5 years, what's very clear is that whilst there has been a bit of a recovery, it's not been a recovery that everybody in our country has benefited from. Average wages are down since 2010 when David Cameron and Nick Clegg did that deal in number 10 Downing Street. So if we want to make sure that everybody can benefit from Britain's future prosperity, a Labour government that is committed to making sure that we have the minimum wage increased, that we freeze energy bills, that we extend the range of apprenticeships that are on offer, and that we give the chance for the next generation coming behind our generation to go to university at a more affordable rate than the £9,000 this current government are saying. People have to vote Labour to make that choice a reality. We need to put more money into the National Health Service. That's why Labour has said we will bring in a mansion tax and use the resources from that to create more nurses, to recruit more nurses and recruit more doctors, and get better levels of investment into our hospitals. Somebody mentioned the tube and rail fares. If you live in London, the current government have seen a 60% rise in the cost of travelling on the tube. We want to cap train fares to reduce the amount that ordinary working people have to pay in order to get into work. And we want people to set up businesses. We want people to use their imagination and their entrepreneurial spirit, as a number of you have already done in this room. And to try and help you, we will cut business rates for small businesses, and we'll work to freeze the energy bills that small businesses have to take as well. Now, we want people to be able to afford to buy their own homes, which is why we want to drive wages up, why we want to create more decent jobs. But we recognise too that many people will have to live in private rented accommodation at different times of their lives. And instead of seeing rents just continuing to grow ever faster in terms of the rate of increase, what we want to do is to see that there are longer tenancies created, so that people have security of tenure. They can't be evicted just on the whim of a landlord, and in that way help to get control of the amount of rent that people are paying as well.
I think it is important that we keep reminding the communities that this is a critical election. At the moment, we are in a dead heat with the Tories, and that means if we do not become the biggest party, and I believe we will, I still believe we can win this general election, there will be a period of uncertainty. That is why it's extremely important that people should go out and galvanise the community and ensure that they get as many people to vote as possible. Now, of course, in some areas, Perry Barr, where Khalid has been the most outstanding local MP, I know this because at the last election I went to the Lascelles Road, and it was great to see a local MP being mobbed by all the local residents. They genuinely have huge affection for him. And I think that it's not in seats like Perry Barr, even in places like Leicester. It's actually those critical seats that we need to win in order to form a government. Seats like Bradford, 2 seats in Bradford that we've got to win. A seat in Manchester, we've got to win at least 2 to 3 of the Bristol seats. And of course we need to win 10 seats in London. So there are so many opportunities for you to be part of that. First of all, communities galvanising themselves and each other. Secondly, ensuring that we can be moved from the margins to the mainstream of British politics. And thirdly, to make that generational shift so that the next generation, which I see very well represented at this meeting today, are able to speak up and say what they want from the parties. And you'll find in the Labour Party in government, a party that is prepared to listen and is prepared to act on those policies and with that spirit. So with those very few words, Ashraf, I am going to hand over to the great Khalid Mahmood, who will speak to you now. Thank you.
In order to achieve perhaps what you want to achieve, and I understand people who join parties across there because they still have a huge ties to the current country of their origin and families who they've been parts of. But they need to be able to have a real role in this country as well. So that's really important to try and see how we can develop that and how we can move that forward. So if you have a real understanding about this, and as Mr. Chaudhary says quite rightly, you do need to play a role in politics and in elections particularly. We might not necessarily quite agree with where you should be, but we certainly both agree that you should come out and vote. That is crucial. That is the real thing in order to achieve something. And you've seen over the summer there was a lot of issues, particularly issues like Gaza, where there was a huge amount of concern within the Muslim community, the Pakistani community included as well in that. And the only way to achieve something is by being part of a political movement. And what happened, which was really interesting, two things. One was the vote against Syria, which the leader of the Labour Party, Ed Miliband, supported us on that and made sure that the whole of the Labour Party supported it. Elements within the Conservative Party and other parties supported that as well, was not to go to that. And secondly, the vote on recognition of Palestine. That was also done because we took a view, the Labour Party members, senior members of Parliament took a view, along with Ed Miliband and the National Executive, that this is what we should do. And we did that. And if we get, and we should do after the election, get Ed Miliband into office in number 10 Downing Street, then he will have to live up to that vote because he voted in that. So that's what part of politics is about. But more importantly, politics at home is hugely interesting and important. And I think we should look at what difference it makes. And I think if you look at the parties and look at the way things work, what the main difference between the Labour Party and the Conservative Party is that the Labour Party looks after its people. And its people are essentially us, as Gareth said. Unless you work in the city at a very high level, or you're the landed gentry in this country, really you belong to the Labour Party. If you belong there, that's fine. You can go and be a part of the Tory Party, and that's about it. But really, if you look at all the issues, people mentioned the issues of immigration, people have mentioned the issues of the National Health Service, you mentioned a number of issues about students' grants, and also about the cuts in police, and those sort of issues which are hugely important. Issue of self-employed people were raised as well. And I think the key thing is that on all of those issues, it's the Labour Party that actually looks at the interests of those people and moves forward. Because we've had such a huge interest, and we get mocked for being paid by the unions. We are supported by the unions because we're a party that has come from the unions, has come from the working people. Right? And, they can say that, but how accountable are the people? And in order to get that funding from the unions, each individual member has to sign up his 56 pence a week that he puts into the trade, into the political fund to do that. So that is totally and utterly accountable when they say that. When the hedge funds and all those other people pay into the Tory party, where is their accountability of what money's coming in and how that's done and how we do that? So I have absolutely no problem. So there's some real issues that we're trying to deal with, and we have to move forward. And for the community to be able to move forward, I think that really anybody who is essentially not very wealthy, i.e. really wealthy, then you have no alternative but to vote for the Labour Party. And that's why we have people like Ashraf, who've now joined and a prominent player of the Labour Party. So
thank you very much. I'm honestly thankful to each and every of you because it was a bit of a challenge to get the people together at that time. So I think we did our job very well. Thanks very much.